Welcome back to Father Ted Talks Orthodox Mythbusters edition. We are ready with 10 new questions for you. Just a quick reminder, Mythbusters are quick questions that I pose to Father Ted and he attempts to answer them in 10 seconds or less, but sometimes a little longer. Today we want to thank Greek Moms TO Facebook group for their contributions of our questions. They're fantastic questions, and we hope that you will continue to send us your questions. All right, so Father Ted, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, our first question is, at what age should children begin fasting?
It's a good question. So a lot of people ask me this question. Myself, having 3 children under the age of 5, it's a question. So children, obviously it's difficult for little children to do the full fast, which in the Orthodox Church is completely vegan, right? No meat, no dairy, sometimes no oil. But I would say that is not difficult to after at least the ages of 2 or 3, when they begin to become toddlers and they're running around, and especially by around the age of 4 or 5 where they start going to school, I think that's a good time to start incorporating at least basic fasting. So for example, if you don't feed your children meat, which is the most basic type of fasting, on Wednesdays and Fridays, they won't really know the difference at that age. They'll just know that on Wednesdays and Fridays we don't eat meat, and most children don't eat meat all the time anyways. So I think that's a good time, around 4 and 5, preschool to junior kindergarten years, to begin to start this type of habit of not eating on Wednesdays and Fridays. I don't think that at that age it's possible to do like full 40-day fasts or extended fast at that age, but at least if we start to incorporate those basic kind of elements, then as they get older, you can start adding more. And also, of course, speaking to them about it, and it will be easier for them to transition into full fasting if they've already kind of got the building blocks from a young age.
Perfect. Okay, switching gears a little bit here. Is it bad luck to go straight home following a funeral?
Okay, so this falls under those superstitions, or what we call YIAYIALOGY sometimes in the church. So that has really kind of nothing to do with Orthodox theology. I know there's a lot of different traditions that kind of come from different cultures and different villages. So going home or not wanting to go directly home after a funeral is based on the superstitious belief that death will follow you home and it's bad luck. Of course, we don't believe that as Orthodox Christians. In fact, we are very much, pro-death, in the sense that we see death as the entrance into eternal life. So that's a culmination of everything that we do in this life. And so no, there is no reason for not going home immediately after.
Okay, and along the same lines now, do you have to wash your hands and face following a funeral?
No. Again, it's one of those superstitions. A lot of times, you go to the Macaria, the mercy meal, and they'll have a bowl there to wash your hands as if to wash death off. Again, one of those superstitions. A lot of people hold to it, especially the Greeks. I always tell people don't do those things because they are really kind of pagan beliefs that they actually very much go against what we understand as the theology of death in the church and the purpose of death. So there's no such thing as bad luck or being tainted by death. So
very interesting. Okay, along the lines of fasting, is your fast ruined or void if you unintentionally eat something like meat or dairy?
Like by accident?
By accident.
Yeah, no, it's not, because the fast is not kind of like a Pharisaical, a rule that, you have to follow it, and it's like a checklist. I didn't eat this, I didn't eat that, therefore I am worthy now, or I've reached a certain spiritual level. The fast is there to help us. It's a tool, like many tools that we have in the church, to help us become stronger spiritually, to have control over our bodies and over our minds and basically over our passions. And so the spirit of the fast is what's most important. So we try to do the best we can. If we fall, we get back up again. There's no such thing as ruining the fast. The only time we ruin the fast is when we give up, when we make a mistake and we say, okay, you know what, I'm stopping now. I'm just going to go do whatever I want, and I'm going to forget about the rest of, for example, the Lenten journey, or if it's a Wednesday or a Friday, say, well, I happen to eat something by accident. Now I'm just going to eat whatever. That's the excuse, right? So, yeah.
Okay, we had a question come up. We have a number of interfaith families in our group, and so the question came up is, can my Orthodox child receive communion at Catholic school?
I've talked about this in a previous podcast as well, but the answer is no. And the short answer to that is that we are not of the same faith. And of course, Holy Communion, the word communion means being one. So when we participate in the sacramental life of the church, especially Holy Communion, we are in fact becoming one with the church, one with the body of Christ. So I can't go and take Holy Communion in another church, for example, a Roman Catholic church or any other non-Orthodox church, because by that action I would be uniting myself with that church. And so as much as, of course, a lot of our kids go to Catholic schools and they want to participate in like First Communion, all this kind of stuff, it's important to teach our children the differences and to explain to them that, yes, they can go up, for example, for a blessing, but it's not appropriate for them to be receiving Holy Communion. For more information, look back in the Father Ted Talks to the raising, Orthodox kids and raising them in the church, which is I think the second episode, and we'll put the link in the doobly-doo below the video. Perfect.
Okay, why is Easter celebrated on the same day for the Julian and Gregorian calendars? One of our moms pointed out that there's a 13-day difference. So does one lose out a few days or gain a few days? How does that all work?
Okay, so just the short answer is that the Julian calendar, or what we call the old calendar, and the Gregorian calendar, which is the newer calendar, those calendars have to do with the fixed dates.
Okay.
So fixed feast days, for example, like Christmas, like the Feast of St. George, or the feast or Epiphany. Right? So those feasts throughout the year, they don't change. They always stay on the same days. Easter, or Pascha, is a different calculation. It is a feast that moves because it always comes with the coming of the spring, what is called the vernal equinox of the planets, and so in the rotation of the earth around the sun. And so because that shifts, everything that has to do with Easter, which is the beginning of Lent, the Saturdays of the Souls, all the different Sundays that we have dedicated, the Lenten Saturdays and all that, Sundays, and all that kind of stuff, all that moves, and Pentecost afterwards and Ascension, all that shifts with Pascha, where the fixed calendar stays the same. And so you think about it as, the basic calendar staying on the bottom, and you have Pascha, which shifts along that calendar and switches every year, and all the feasts that are associated with Pascha, but the fixed dates don't move. So yes, between the Julian and the Gregorian, there are 13 days difference in the fixed dates, but Pascha is always calculated in the same way. And so both old calendarist Christians who follow the old calendar in the Orthodox Church, the Julian, and Orthodox Christians who follow the new calendar, they both may differ in the fixed dates, but they both celebrate Pascha at the same time.
Very interesting. Okay, so another question we had was with regards to objects that we receive in church. So how do we dispose of blessed items that we receive? So that could be something like a martirico at a baptism, the witness pins, or the vaya that you receive, or the flowers from the epitafio. How would you actually dispose of those items afterwards?
Because a lot of times those things can accumulate in our homes, right? Yes. So anytime we have something that is blessed from the church, the important thing is that what is the most respectful thing to do? So we would never want those things to end up in the landfill or to throw things in the garbage. For example, we'd never take an icon of Christ and throw in the garbage and then have it end up in a landfill somewhere. It's not very respectful. So we don't want those things either going down the drain into where where human waste goes and things like that, into the sewers, and we wouldn't want it going anywhere where people would step or would disrespect it. So really the only two options we have is when we have things in liquid form, for example holy water or holy oil, we would pour them into nature, into a garden or into a potted plant, or into the grass where people don't step, and let them disperse into nature. And anything that is solid, for example, like little wooden crosses or little paper icons, or even like broken old icons that we can't use anymore, things like that, or the Q-tips or the cotton balls that have holy unction from, for example, Holy and Great Wednesday. All that stuff, the most appropriate thing to do is to either burn it, right? So that's the one way of getting rid of it, or to bury it in the ground. Those are the only two options that we have that will allow those things to kind of disperse again back into nature.
Very interesting. Okay, does the church believe in the mati, or the evil eye, and should we wear the evil eye?
Okay, so again, go back to the Father TED Talk that we did on the evil eye, actually one of the most popular videos, go figure, and you can kind of go into that whole deep discussion that we explore it. But the short answer is that we believe in a certain version of the mati, of the evil eye, in the sense that, yes, we believe that there is a spiritual realm, and that, of course, holy people can converse with angels and with saints, and of course, people who work evil, people who dedicate themselves to the works of darkness, can also speak to other things, to demons and things like that. And we believe that, yes, there is the ability of some people to work magics and things like that, or to wish hateful things on you, right? And so in that sense, we believe in the evil eye, and of course, the proper thing is to go to the priest and to ask for a prayer of Ascania, as it's called, which is the prayer against the evil eye, or to do your own prayers and your own crosses, or even to have people pray for you. But what we don't believe in is kind of like this superstitious, folkloric approach to the evil evil eye, where you only go to a specific individual and they only have the special secret prayers that can work, or wearing trinkets like the blue eye, which is definitely not Orthodox. It's definitely not Christian. It actually filters to us through Persia and through the Turks, and heavily influences us during Turkish occupation. And definitely we should not hang those either on our children, either in our homes or on our bodies, because we are dividing our allegiances. The only thing that we should be hanging on our bodies is the Holy Cross. It's the most powerful symbol that we have, and that is the only thing that we should be putting our trust in.
Very interesting, because I know many of us, and I'm sure many of the moms in the group will agree, that we put a little mataki on our baby when they were born, and yet it's quite divisive.
Yeah, I would say that, if we understand what that means and we understand that it is not Christian, if we continue to do it, then it is like saying we don't trust enough in God, we don't trust enough in His Holy Cross and His Son Jesus Christ, and so we are dividing our allegiances. In those cases, I would say that it's even possible, by hanging those things on our children, on ourselves, that we actually are inviting the evil eye, not protecting ourselves from it, but inviting those evil things towards us, because we are basically betraying our faith, and we are betraying our belief in God. We're showing that we have weak faith.
Right. Okay, well, along those lines now with children, I've got two more questions for you that are sort of kid-based. One is, should I keep my newborn or toddler at home until they get older, because I don't want to distract my fellow parishioners?
So again, a very, very popular kind of idea, that people feel bad when they have children who are yelling and screaming and being rowdy in the church, and they don't want to distract other people, or sometimes other Orthodox Christians, God forbid, criticize them or make them feel bad for being at church with their children. Definitely the short answer is no, bring your kids to church. And as a community, we should want to hear children crying within the church. We should want to hear children being rowdy in the church. Why? Because it means that the church is alive. It means that the church has life. It means that the church has the younger generation growing within it, like any family. So I think that's the short answer. And and also the second thing is that most people don't realize that children form their core personalities within the first 4 years of their lives, right? And that's not only their personality, like who they're going to be, what kind of actions they're going to take, but also their belief in God. And if we don't instill the church and the Christian life and the whole pattern of prayer within those children at that time, and we wait until after, which is kind of like the logical thing that people do, that when my kid is old enough for preschool, or when my kid is old enough for kindergarten, that's when I'll send them to Sunday school and they'll get their religion. That's definitely like the biggest mistake, one of the biggest mistakes that parents can make when raising their children. Bring the kids to church, and if anybody says anything to you, well, either ignore them or you can speak to the priest. And if you're at my church, definitely you're never going to hear anything bad from me. I'll take care of those people for you. So.
Okay, and along the same lines, I know I do this, so I'm hoping for a particular answer here, obviously. Should we bring snacks and or little toys to distract our children during the liturgy, to sort of keep them engaged and keep them active?
So that's another good question. I know it's hard, especially if you have multiple kids, but even if you have one, that the children it's very long, the service for them, they get rowdy, it's hard to distract them. And so, okay, like little kids are not going to be able to go sometimes like an hour and a half without having a snack. So I don't see a big problem with when they're really small. As I said, when they get older and they start learning about fasting, then slowly you begin to wean them off that kind of tradition, and you start instilling in them the idea of fasting before communion and things like that. But when they're little babies and toddlers, it's very difficult to do that. As far as when it comes to toys, well, again, like you have to use your discretion. Like, you don't want to make the church into a playground, because they need to kind of begin to understand, even as small infants, that this is a holy place and this is a place for prayer. But at the same time, you want them to be comfortable, and you don't want them to feel that they are restricted. So it's finding that balance. There's a really good podcast on Ancient Faith Radio called Raising Saints by Alyssa Bielitich. She actually did an episode with myself about a year ago about raising children in the church, which I'll put the link down in the doobly-doo. And she has a lot of really good and practical, suggestions on how to kind of take your children to church, and also the kind of ways to not distract them, but to pique their interest, like to show them the candles, to show them the icons, and to teach them about elements of the liturgy, as opposed to telling them, be quiet, sit there, and just pay attention. Well, but actually involving them in practical ways of doing it. So I think it's if the parents are involved and they're engaged and they understand what the liturgy is, then they will find ways to not distract their kids, but to engage their kids in the liturgy. Even
doing things that are maybe contrary to what you think, like sitting up closer so that they can actually see and be engaged, rather than be distracted at the back.
Or hiding in the back of the church where you can't see anything, or when you can hear a lot of people talking, right? Sometimes it's good to be close, and also to help them. And then as they get older, to to encourage participation, for example, in the as an altar server, or as a myrrh bearer, or helping out in Sunday school, or whatever other programs your parish might have.
Very interesting. Okay, that's all the questions we've got for today.
Great.
So we would love to hear more questions from our Greek Moms group or any other group. Please share this podcast to anybody who you think might be interested. We love hearing from you, so please send us our questions at Fr.TEDTalks@gmail.com, or of course you can access us through our YouTube page, our Facebook page, or of course you can contact either one of us personally. And we definitely want to give a shout out to our friends at HN Faith Radio, where our podcast is located as well. And there's a number of other podcasts you can access there as well. So thanks a lot, and we look forward to your questions for our next episode of Father Ted Talks Orthodox Mythbusters.
Thank you. And I'd like to say thank you to Tina Krepis for being our co-host today, and also for helping me out, and also being our technical kind of producer on the show, and kind of filtering through all the questions and everything. And also don't forget to like and subscribe us on YouTube, and also follow us on Ancient Faith Radio, but also to visit our Patreon account, because as you all know, we always need support to be able to bring you new guests to the show, to be able to invest in new technology for our podcast, to make a better product for you. So again, we would appreciate your support on Patreon as well. So again, God bless you. Thank you for watching Father Ted Talks, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.